Seriously, I was just about to share some of my thoughts on this particular zero-day exploit in relation to Microsoft Print Spooler. I think it's called the PrintNightmare or something like this. But it's so lovely out here. The weather is hot. People are out in the park bubbling, and I'm feeling very relaxed. And I think actually the best time for us to talk is when I get back in. So we'll talk later. Heading back. Talk to you soon. I'm home. Yes, I got home. Oh, it was really lovely out there. The sun, just the fresh air, just being away from a computer. It was really nice. However, I'm home. And as promised, I am going to be talking about zero-day exploit, particularly one that's been brought to our attention recently, which is to do with Microsoft's Print Spooler, tongue-tied, Print Spooler. Now apparently it has a vulnerability that can be exploited by unscrupulous people, hackers and the like, by any computer on their domain, on that particular domain. And what they can do is remotely run code. Now that sounds pretty terrible. And it's something that attracted my attention because many of you might have known I used to be a network administrator and then a CTO, and part of my job was to ensure that the computer systems and the network kept running. And it seems like an easy thing, and when everything's running, nobody ever noticed us. My team, myself, nobody ever thought of us or talked to us. But in the background, we would constantly be doing so many things like doing patches, reading articles, making sure we knew what, where, when, how, just to ensure that we could always keep the network up. And it was on the days when things happened to the network that people remembered we existed. Now I can imagine like a day-to-day, any network administrator or IT manager or even CTO reading that will be a little bit apprehensive. Microsoft products are not just products that run on one or two systems. No, there are a lot of businesses, small, medium, and large, that use these products. Also, there are a lot of businesses that, for one reason or another, they run their own domain controller. They run their network, and a network is usually managed through a domain controller, especially if it's running Windows operating system, or it wants to use the Windows Server operating system. Now the domain controller is like the beefy guard at a nightclub. Now that beefy guard at the nightclub has a list of people they can let in. It has a list of rules of things they can allow you or cannot allow you to do or to wear or to act. And it has the overall authority handed down to it to be able to take action in the event there are any defaults. So the domain controller is kind of a big, powerful PC that actually does a lot of management on the network. It controls which systems have access to what resources. It controls which people can log on to what computers. It controls things like the print spooler. And the print spooler is usually a service that runs on that particular computer, allowing the server to manage print jobs. And it allows you to manage print jobs. It allows the client computers to send their print jobs, but those computers can continue to work whilst the print spooler does its magic in the background and ensures the document is copied to the printer. It manages when it will be printed, it manages when it will be released and things like that. And it manages the print queue. So with all that in mind, you can imagine that all around the world, loads of Microsoft domain controllers, loads of print spoolers, services active, and yet they now come and tell us, on a Friday, well, it was yesterday, I saw the news actually at first, they come back with that there is a vulnerability. And from all the stories I read, it was like it was a reluctant release to say it was a high-level alert. It seems there had been some kind of error made by some people who were looking into the particular vulnerability, and apparently they released some code that would help would-be hackers, would-be people who like to sort of test out those vulnerabilities to actually gain access to the print spooler service and then be able to give them access to run code remotely. Sounds terrible, sounds complicated, but the bottom line is, what can we do? I don't know. Now, that's what I will talk about later. But it just brought home to me all the things that IT administrators, IT managers will be going through right now. If it was me and I was hearing this news, the thing I would do, one, would be review all the relevant key news sources. Make sure that this news is correct. Make sure it's verified. Make sure there are no additional bits of information I need. And that's part of the job of an IT administrator or an IT manager. You need to quickly verify the information so that you can act quickly. Now, if I find out that after checking news sources, I find that actual information is valid and it's true, then my next point would be, okay, so what's the solution? So I checked the solution. They said basically any computer that's running the print spooler service has to basically disable the service. Disable the service and run the current patches or updates from Microsoft. Sounds pretty simple. Yeah, it does. However, think about it like this. Depends on how your network is organized, depends on how your domain is organized. Now, domains which are less, like they have about 50 computers, 50 to 200, maybe 300 computers, they may not necessarily have an automated system in place. It may not be worth their while, they've never gotten around to doing it. For one reason or another, they haven't done it. So how are they going to roll out those patches? How are they going to roll out those updates? How are they going to make sure those services are done? Well, they should theoretically be able to do it, from the domain controller. Yeah, I suppose so. They should have access to each computer and be able to do it from there. But the thing that they need to do is do it immediately and do it effectively. Rolling out, switching off the service may not be that tricky because they should be able to do it from the group policy snapping on the domain controller. They should be able to do it from there. I might be wrong. And so they should be able to amend the group policy and reapply it to the domain so that the print spooler is switched off. That might be one way of doing it. The other way might have to be manually go around and switch it off, but that wouldn't be practical unless you've only got a network of 50 to 100 computers, and even then, that's pretty laborious work. The update too shouldn't be too much of a problem because you should be able to administer an update from the control server. So these are things that are not really terribly hard to do on a network with a domain controller unless for some reason you just don't want to do it, or you don't know how to do it, or you just don't have the automated systems in place to do it. Then guess what? You better roll up your sleeves and get to it manually. But the point of the matter is simply it must be done immediately and it must be done effectively. If it's not, it can lead to things snowballing. It can lead to that vulnerability which everybody knows about being hacked, just out of curiosity, just out of the fact that people know about it and now are looking for networks that have it. Now that's serious, and that's one of the things that came to mind. This is a zero-day vulnerability or a zero-day exploit. So what does it mean when they say zero-day? Yeah, that's a good point. Why is the exploit called a zero-day? From what I gather, a zero-day exploit is an exploit that has happened for a particular kind of service or software or brand or system or hardware, and it's just been found. So it's literally just been found. There is no patch out there. The manufacturer or the service provider actually doesn't have time right now or has found it, and they've not yet been able to provide a patch or an update or a resolution to it. And in the meantime, whilst they haven't yet, because it's just been found, they haven't had time to do the patch or the resolution, but it's the vulnerability is now known by everybody, and the vulnerability can actually, right now as we're speaking, be exploited. So there's been zero time to know it, zero time to find a solution, and zero time to protect yourself from potential people who may exploit that vulnerability. So that's what a zero-day exploit or vulnerability is. And in terms of its possible effect, think back to the NHS. What was it called? Was it called the WannaCry? The WannaCry ended up being a big problem for the NHS. And the reason it was a big problem seems to be that some people did not do their job, and they did not apply the relevant updates or patches at the right time, and it led to a whole load of problems for the NHS. Now, judge not. I have no clue why they didn't apply it. I have no clue what other problems they may have been facing. Unfortunately, as IT people, we don't get that second chance. Systems go down, they look for heads to roll, and there is no time to explain later why. So as much as possible, those of you who are into IT out there, those of you who have a system, and from what I'm guessing, this may not only be about domain controllers. No, if you have a PC that's running Windows and anywhere on it you find the print spooler service running, shut it down. That's number one, shut it down. Number two, run the latest update and protect yourself from the possible problems that are coming. Because curious people with good skills working on the wrong side may be testing your network, testing your PC, or just testing to see if they can exploit this vulnerability. If I'm talking to any IT people out there, my thoughts are with you. I know what you're going through, and I wish you luck. Get it done now. Anyone with a PC, I'll try and pop in a video maybe tomorrow or sometime and show you what to look for, and to see if I can help you find a way to shut off that service on your Windows system if it's running on PCs as well as domain controllers, just in case, because we don't want our system to be used as a robot system or part of a bot network whereby we're used to do other dastardly things to other servers or systems out there. So I hope you enjoyed this little infamous tech tip or tech info, and I'll be back later on, hopefully, with more tips, more conversations, and more techie bits. Bye for now.